take like one more minute and then get started. I think it's going to be a short one. It's New Year. We're all getting back into the groove of things. And I think Brian might be late, so he'll come in maybe in the middle. Great. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Well, this kicks off our first Akri meeting of 2022. I guess we can bump this this right here at the top. We'll go ahead and do that. And these meetings are recorded, so feel free to leave the camera off if you're not interested in being seen, or you can hop off as well if you prefer just to watch the recordings. For our agenda today, we don't have anything. We have one announcement. So we have a PR up for supporting terminating pods as brokers. So currently with Akri, for every device we discover, if you specify a broker, we'll deploy a pod that is expected to never terminate to that discovered device. So think about like a frame server that's constantly grabbing frames from a camera, or a protocol translation gateway that maybe translates one type of device to another. So maybe a USB camera to an IP camera. Those were the initial scenarios we're looking at, and this PR broadens us to support other scenarios where you may want a workload to be deployed to something and then terminate. So what that means is that in our configuration where you specify what you want Akri to find and what you want Akri to deploy, on the deploy side, we not only have a broker pod spec that you can specify as we always have, but you can also specify a job spec. And so this expands it. It is a breaking change in the sense that it modifies that kind of deployment section of our configuration, but it expands the functionality. It doesn't limit what we currently had. So everything you can do with a job in Kubernetes, like specify parallelism, completion, back off limits, you can do with Akri. We literally are just deploying that job spec that you specify to each discovered device. Beyond that, what's unique is that we're only deploying one per device. So even if you have a 4-node cluster, we'll only deploy one job. We may expand that out in the future, say if you wanted a job deployed on each node, but you can kind of modify that so that it runs on multiple nodes by modifying these parallelism and completion settings of a job spec anyways. So you can create that sort of behavior, but Akri is not going to ensure that you have a job running on each node. So I also pushed the images of the contents of this PR so that you can try it out. So if people are interested in seeing what does a job look like in Akri setting even before it's merged, feel free to try these out in the PR description. And then I kind of discuss like some future extensions that we can take here. And hopefully we can get this in, and then we can make a new release to support this new functionality and start off the new year. Are there any questions about this PR? And if you want any background on the design choices, there's a PR into the documentation that's a proposal, and it should match exactly the implementation. Oh, sorry, there's a PR this is the PR for the documentation on how to deploy jobs. And then we also have a PR with the proposal. Here it is. Here, and that discusses kind of what is the change, what's the motivation for it, etc. And feel free to leave comments there too and questions there. They kind of should go in together, and hopefully this proposal will be long-term documentation that we can change as maybe the implementation changes as well, kind of cementing that proposal design pattern that we'd like to have. Yeah, I guess any questions or things that people want to add with that? Awesome. So the only thing else we have on our agenda is just discussion topics. Are there anything that anyone brought that they were just interested in kind of brainstorming or discussing with regards to Akri?
This is great. I don't have anything to add, Kate, but it's great to see those PRs, and I'll be taking a look soon.
Cool. I guess one thing I was kind of wondering, we are mentioning like a release in the future, and it'd be cool if we could have community-based bug bashes. Are y'all aware of any projects that do something along that line, where as they work up to a release cycle, they have a set period of time where they put out kind of scenarios to the community and get feedback that way?
I'm not aware of any. I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, I'm not aware either, but I mean, it would be great if we have like a one team that's using Akri, then we can kind of test that with them. At least that's what I've seen other projects do a little bit. They will have like a preview, and then people will test the preview of the release. But yeah, maybe that's something we can do as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool, we can keep that in mind. And I guess this kind of goes along with like a preview or just a scenario in general. For jobs, we'll want to add a demo to our site. So just for a refresher, you can find our documentation site. And we have a whole demo section. And so ideally we have a demo for each one of our protocols. So we have a demo for OnVIF. We have a demo for UDEV and OBC. We should also have one for OnVIF in the future. Great idea if anybody wants to take that on. And which could really just build off of our USB camera demo. But we'd want to add a demo also now for deployment scenarios, or expand these demos to be specific to deployment scenarios. So if anyone has any recommendations on what would be a cool demo for that, keep those in mind, or we can chat about those now. I think definitely some kind of action upon the device would be useful. So like we've talked about cameras a lot, it could be changing the angle of the camera shot. So you can see like, oh, it was looking straight on, now it's looking to the side, something like that. Other devices, it could be changing the volume of a speaker, or something along those lines. So just keeping in mind, it'd be cool to brainstorm some ideas for that. Hi, Brian. Welcome, welcome. We just kind of were going over jobs, and now we were just kind of having some random discussion. Is there anything that is on your mind that you want to kind of bring to the front to discuss? We talked a little bit about like community bug bashes and some scenarios for jobs.
Sorry, I was having trouble with audio. Was that a question for me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to leave you out there hanging another question. No, I don't have anything that's pressing on my mind.
Cool. Well, I think then we're having a short meeting today just to kick off the year. I think we can move into triage. I haven't moved things over, so Brian, do you want to lead this triage, or since you just hopped in, do you want me to go for it?
If you wouldn't mind,
Sure. Yeah, no worries. So we only have 4 issues here. Interesting that this is triage needed. So this is a pretty old one. It's weird that it moved back to triage needed, but maybe, okay, I think what happened is, Ro, I'm interested what you think here. So for both of these, I removed the stale. Okay, so I think what happened with both of these is I think they were closed automatically and I reopened them, and because I wanted to keep them alive. So I think when that happens, we have to re-triage it seems. Probably,
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, but should have caught it before it closed, I guess. So I guess this is a good time to review this issue. So when you create a device plugin, you can specify what that device needs when it's requested by a pod or specifically a container. And you can specify mount paths, or you can specify device specifications. So you can kind of see here in the side description here, but with the mount path, you can specify the path for the container, the path for the host, and is it read-only, true, false. For device spec, you have a little bit more that you can specify. So you still specify that container path and host path, but you can also specify permissions. And so say you had some permissions that you set on the host for the device, you might want to carry those over. And it's just more explicit than read-only. So for this is requesting that we use device spec instead of explicit mounting. What this would require is we would need to expand our details for our UDEV discovery handler so that you can specify what you want those permissions to be, so that we could then set them in the discovery handler. So it would be a change that would expand what our the CRD would look like for UDEV, but it would add more specificity on access rights. So I guess I think moving that to backlog seems like where it should go, since I think it's something that we'd want to take on, but we don't have any plans to do so anytime soon.
Makes sense to me.
Cool. Support for MQTT. This has been a long one. I think same, like there's a lot of good discussion here. If anyone's interested in MQTT, this is definitely the issue to go to. People are adding their thoughts there. We don't have anyone who's currently decided to take on that work, but it's definitely something that we've discussed. But we've also we've discussed whether or not it fits with Akri. So I think this one's a little interesting. Do we want to put it in investigating or backlog? I guess my immediate instinct is to put it in backlog. I think it's something that we should support. It might not fit every scenario, but it would be cool to have an MQTT support built in.
I think that's fine. I think my gut was investigating, but I think backlog is fine.
Any third opinion in the group? Ooh, okay. Well, I'm not sure. We got some thumbs up, but I'm not sure if that's for investigating or backlog, but I'll go for investigating since that was the last thing said. I think that makes sense if we're still trying to figure out what to do with it. Okay. So this one's interesting. This is a recent one. I've run into this as well. So once again, talking about the UDEV discovery handler, the way it works is that it uses UDEV and UDEV rules to find specific dev nodes, and it assumes that a single dev node represents a device. However, so dev node, for example, for a USB camera, that would be /dev/video1, for example. However, there's some cameras like the one I'm using right now that use multiple dev nodes. So I believe mine here, it uses like, well, it'll take 2 spots. And so that means that if I were to plug this into my cluster, I would get 2 instances for this one camera. So what this calls out is we need a way with UDEV to somehow, maybe there's a way to inspect the properties of a device and know that it is associated with another dev node, or maybe that's something that people declaratively specify. That seems a little hard to do, but we need a way to kind of handle that. And I'm not sure what that way should be, but it does lead to problems with scenarios like this. Yeah. Any thoughts here on how we should approach this? Or does anyone know of any other devices that kind of have this scenario happening? I've only seen it with USB cameras, but maybe like, for example, sound devices. Some people may want to mount the whole sound directory, even if you're using just one speaker. It may need access to all these different parts of the directory, and you may just want to declaratively mount the whole directory. Yeah.
I did a quick search and it just, UDEV, multiple nodes, single device sort of thing. And it sounds like it, it's out there. The first example I found doesn't initially look like it's necessarily a camera, though it could be. I know it's a multi-port USB serial adapter, so it's something other than a camera. I don't know if that helps you with your, is it only a camera?
No, that definitely, there's obviously more out there that helps. So I think we clearly need some investigation into this. I do think there is a lot of USB cameras who fit this scenario, or that fit this scenario. So it may be something we want to prioritize, or at least put some investigation into it, so where we could like help someone take on the implementation.
Yeah, the bug says on K3D. I mean, it would repro anywhere, right? It's
Yes.
not really specific, so yeah.
Yeah. Which, yeah, maybe we want to rename this to be something. Like should I rename this to be unable to multiple instances for single device that has multiple dev nodes or something like that, to make it more descriptive?
Yeah, I think we can keep it, just maybe add a comment or just remove the on K3D.
Yeah, I think I added some comments about the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in case somebody just run into it, they can find the bug.
Yeah. Okay. I put it in investigating, since we'll want to look at how to go about this. And then we have, with one of our libraries, a buffer overflow error or issue. I haven't looked into this at all to see which one of our dependencies it's associated with. But I can go ahead, and I'm curious, we have our update dependency workflow just ran, so I wonder if that'll cover this. But
do you want to keep it for one more day? I just merged the other change, the update dependencies, so maybe we can see if that's gonna go away instead of spending like cycles trying to investigate it first.
Oh, it looks like it looks like it's not updating. It's not going to be the resolve it. So it has an updated version has not been released. We'll need to switch crates. I know, I'm pretty positive we're not bringing this crate in directly. So we'll just need to look at what dependencies bringing it in to add a little bit more context, because we want to track at least what dependencies bringing it in, whether they're addressing it. So Yeah, we'll move that to investigating, and I can assign myself to that. I'll look at that and see what dependency that is. Awesome. I think that is it. Great. Is there anything else? I think that covers all of our agenda items. Anything else that people wanted to bring up or possibly propose for future discussion? Great. Okay, awesome. Well, Happy New Year. And we'll be back in a month.
See you next meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
I,